Okay, so call the meeting to order, and the first item on the agenda is to review and approve the outstanding minutes from previous meetings. And at this stage of the game, since Susan is no longer and Betty is not on,
Yeah,
I don't know how we handle this because we don't have a quorum.
yeah, I agree. I think the minutes are going to have to wait until the next meeting
Okay.
because then we'll have Joyce.
Joyce, right, exactly. If Joyce was here, we'd be all set.
Yeah. So we'll have to hold off on minutes until the next meeting.
Okay. Well, the next thing that I would like to just quickly discuss is, first of all, welcome Jerry to the board.
Thank you
for
very
our committee.
Glad to participate.
And want to also thank Betty, as I don't know if everybody's aware, but she came and talked to me and has decided to step down from the committee as an at-large member. So I want to personally thank her for her years on the committee. And also Susan Barron was not reappointed, and wanted to thank her for her time on the board, or on the committee, I should say. Okay. Other than that, the next item is to discuss the job descriptions, the hours, and the pay rates. Pete, do you want to take it from there?
Yes. So we have funding approved for the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee. They have an administrative line item where they're allowed to use a certain percentage of their funds every year for administrative services and support. And they want to actually have an administrative assistant, essentially a clerk, for their committee to assist with their meetings, their agendas. Jessica currently does their technical support, so their reporting of their monies and the funds. But this admin assistant would handle the same that our other admin assistants for the boards. It's really just the meetings, the postings. They would likely also be taking in any applications for CPC funding. And then the other one is the Ag Commission also was approved a clerk administrative salary item in their current budget, but they never had a job description created. So for both of these positions, we need to get job descriptions approved by the personnel committee that we can then bring to the select board, so we can go out to put them out to the market and bring in some opportunities. My suggestion, not that it really matters for the personnel committee, but I would likely market these two positions as a singular, of hopefully for one individual, because the Ag Commission meets so rarely. It's such a minor time commitment that it's probably going to be hard to find a person just to do Ag Commission, where if they can do both, they can get a little more money. It's similar to what we did for the Planning Board and Zoning Board. We had effectively two positions for those two boards. We hired a individual that covers both of them. So my idea is to do the same thing. We would keep the same hourly rate that we do for the current administrative assistants, which I should have pulled up before we got into this. Hold on one second. It is $21.16. So we would keep it at the same hourly rate because it's effectively the same role, just for different boards. And that's where, when we look at the two job descriptions, they are essentially the same exact job descriptions as the Planning Board and Zoning Board, with any board specific references or board specific requirements. Like in the CPC job description, it says that this person could assist with the accounting that Jess does, should Jess ever need that assistance, or if Jessica decides that she has too much time commitment somewhere else and wants to push that responsibility onto this person. Our job description, thankfully, is broad enough that that person could take it on, and we would have enough in the hours to pay for them as well.
How many hours do you have between the two positions, Pete?
I shouldn't have said hours, sorry. There are no particular hours assigned. They are given a budget. And so the budget for the Ag Commission, I want to say is 1,500, but it might be 1,200. And for the CPC, it's based on a percentage of their funds. And it's Jess, do you remember if it's 10% or 5% of their funds can be used for administrative purposes? I want to say it's 10%, but
I was muted. I think it's 10%.
yeah, I think it's 10%. So really you could back it out. Let me pull up the Ag Commission's current budget because I know that one here. Let's see. They are 1,500 for the year. So it's 1,500 and we're doing 21.16 an hour. It's 70 hours over the course of the year. The Ag Commission meets not even once a month. They're going to have plenty of money in that fund or in that item where likely I think we need to see, this gets into our finance committee conversation, but likely we're going to need to see them get a person in place and on a regular schedule, and that will help us determine, do they really need to be budgeted for 1,500 or can we cut that down in the future? I have a feeling we likely can bring that down, but they were given 1,500 for this current fiscal year.
Do you happen to know what the total funding is for the CPC side of the equation?
I want to say it's definitely more than that, but I don't have their, Jess, I don't know if you happen to have their dollar amount right now, do you?
Let me take a peek really quick.
I'm just trying to get to the total hours available.
So the admin expense for CPC is 10,000.
Yeah.
It says.
So we have plenty. We would not use all of that again. We don't go anywhere near that for our admin assistants to support these boards because they are minimal. I think in general, like with the two land use boards, they are, I want to say 10 to 15 hours total between the two boards per month. And that those are very time intensive boards where they have to run legal ads and they're handling the different applications that are coming in. So even at 10 hours a month across 12 months, it's 120 times that 21 rate. That's 2,500. They both have budgets of 3,000. They have enough leeway there. The CPC, while they do accept applications, it's only it's really once a year, and then there's a special if people need to request funding for a special town meeting, but it's very rare that happens. So their time commitment would be less.
So the total number of hours between the two is about 10 hours a week, potentially.
10 hours a week? Oh, you mean based on how much money we have to spend?
Correct. I'm just trying to.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This person would absolutely not be spending 10 hours a week.
All right, I get it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's a good point. There is funds. We do not adjust the CPC funds because the CPC funds are based on how much is collected and goes into the trust, or into not in the trust, but into the account. The one that we do account for, that we do adjust, is the Agricultural Commission line item, though.
Thank you.
Did anybody have any questions or thoughts on either of the job descriptions?
No, I put it this way. I read them through. Again, most of it's boilerplate other than the few short paragraphs as to the real just description part of it. And it all looks fine based on my knowledge of what each board presently does and requires.
Yeah. This is Jerry. I like the idea of consolidating the two positions. I think that makes a lot of sense. given
Yeah.
how much we have. When I looked at the job description, and forgive me just for being new, one thought I had was to move that section on work schedule up to the front. Maybe it's underneath supervisor exercise, so that you at least can see up front what are the estimated hours, what's the pay rate, et cetera. And it's all right up front before you get to the details of what the position actually does. I don't know if that means you have to change your whole boilerplate. I'm assuming this is consistent throughout the organization.
It is consistent. Thankfully, the personnel committee doesn't have to worry about approving the order of the material. You're approving the material itself, and then I've taken liberties as time has gone on to like rearrange things, but I'm happy to like do rearranging as well, because I agree some of that stuff. This is an older boilerplate job description, but yeah, I think we could certainly update it, and then with that format change, update other ones as we move forward.
Right, I wouldn't want to be inconsistent just based on what I'm looking at. The other part that I would add is perhaps a performance review schedule and compensation adjustment schedule. Maybe that's covered elsewhere in the documentation, maybe even in that personnel handbook that you sent to
It's
me.
in the personnel policies.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, and nowhere in none of our job descriptions do they any of them make mention to an hourly rate, because that is something that is constantly changing on a yearly basis, and we don't need to have anybody having to go back and modify job descriptions on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes good sense, Kate.
And Jerry, just so you know too, we have the job description and then we do a job posting. So there's like a posting that says we have this job available. And we have basically a summary of it. We then say what the expected number of hours are, what the hourly rate is or the salary is, and when the deadline is to apply and what the application process is. And that will then provide a link to the full job description, but that's where we put that hourly rate is in the posting itself rather than in the body of the job description.
Got it. That makes sense. And so,
Brenda, did you have any questions?
No? Well, I guess I wondered from reading the minutes, did you guys discuss these descriptions at the last meeting, or this is the first time they're being discussed here? There was something in the minutes about discussing job descriptions, but I can't tell if it's these specific.
We did do job description discussion last meeting, but it wasn't on these positions. It was on the animal inspector.
Okay.
I think it was the animal inspector position.
It was.
Which that one was a very different one. And that one, that job description, I actually utilized a new format on the descriptions, which I'd be happy to go and change these to that format as well. I can find it. Oh, actually, never mind. It was just a change in the font, but it's the same exact order of all of the same material. I did not change the format really. So certainly something that could use updating. I agree. We are just so that the entire committee is aware, we are in the middle of a compensation and classification study currently underway with a third-party provider, HRS. Sandy is nearing completion on that study. That study will help us determine what our compensation scales need to be, because we've been without a scale for a few years now, which will make it easier for us when we go into budgeting, because then we'll know based on these salary studies that have been done and our jobs what we should be doing and expecting going forward based on that.
that'll be very helpful.
Yeah.
should we have more discussion on your concept of just melding these two rather than having separate job descriptions? Just have one.
No, we should not, because they should be two job descriptions.
Yep.
In case the town was to decide that they do not want to fund the Ag Commission item any longer, then we suddenly have to go through and revise a job description where we would have just put that job description on pause. I can market it as one position, but I provide the reference to the two separate documents.
Got it. Makes sense.
But yeah, I would highly discourage us actually combining these into a singular role, just because of the fact we do not know that either committee would keep these roles long term.
Okay, do we have any other discussion on the Agricultural Commission assistant? I mean, we sort of talked about both of them in a broad scope. Do you want to, is there anything anybody wants to add to the Community Preservation Committee position?
This is Jerry again. One question. Under the essential duties and responsibilities, the second sentence, errors may cause minor monetary loss in providing services. That's in both job descriptions, but what's the purpose of that inside of what an admin person would handle?
Sorry, it might have just cut through a little bit. What you were asking about the errors and
Right, the second sentence inside of essential duties and responsibilities, maybe this is boilerplate across the town descriptions, but the errors may cause minor monetary loss and delay in providing services.
Yep. That is a standard description that we use in nearly all of our job descriptions.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
It's just to cover us, and it's basically to ensure that the individual knows that there is a responsible element to it, that you don't want to take it flippantly.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Right. That's how I take it, because if you don't say it that way, then the employee could say, well, geez, nowhere did it say it was going to, if I made a mistake, it's going to hurt us financially. So,
yeah.
I agree that it's a little awkward only because every other sentence, mostly every other sentence in that whole section starts with a verb like performs or arranges or monitors. I don't know. It reads a little awkwardly to me. I'm not sure what kind of, I mean, is it saying be careful or is it, I don't know but it's not a big, I mean, I was just thinking, should you say, strives to avoid, whatever. Maybe I'm making too much of it. It reads awkwardly to me as well, as all I'm saying.
I think you're on that right point. When I read the sentence, then that brought to my question, what's the performance review schedule and how does all that tie back? Because that's certainly part of performance review. Having it in there.
Performance review, yeah, we do cover that in our personnel policy.
Correct.
Yeah. But it sounded like Brenda was speaking more to a sentence structure.
It just seems awkward to me. I think I know what it's trying to say, but I'm not, and you certainly have a lot more experience than me. So if you're saying that in the field, that's a common sentence and self-evident and not awkward to most people, then fine.
And again, I mean, that paragraph is not consistent. The first sentence starts with a verb, the second with a noun, the third with a verb, the fourth with a noun, well, adjective noun. But outside of that, this paragraph actually is the same one that's used in all of our admin descriptions. And I will say that phrasing is a very common phrase in HR descriptions. That it's well utilized. Whether or not that, just because it's been done forever doesn't mean that we then should continue to do it forever. But I don't believe that there's an issue with it at present, because it is understandable. It basically is just emphasizing the fact that this is a responsible role. You're forgetting to post a meeting isn't oh, no biggie, we'll just do it tomorrow. Like, it's not that kind of thing. Like, you have to understand you're taking a job that has a potential effect on our services or on our ability to collect funds because of, applications or something that the Ag Commission is trying to do. So I
Yeah,
think, we could certainly look at some other point, maybe looking at all of the job descriptions and trying to come up with a way that, like, come up with a voice or a tone that we could then use to wordsmith and update all of the job descriptions, if that would make sense.
I think, wouldn't that be covered with Sandy in the wage and classification?
I don't know that she's
Trish,
doing I don't know that she's doing a modification on the job descriptions.
right. I know Trish had gone through and looked, and I felt had the job descriptions all set in how she felt it. And she's certainly had many years of experience working in the field also. So she didn't see that language sticking out as a problematic. So,
yeah, and Sandy's use of the job descriptions really was a way for her to ensure that when she was looking at other positions and their salary, that the responsibilities are that she could compare them apples to apples, as opposed to like something that happened to have a same job title but actually was a level below based on the description. But yeah, I don't think she's editing job descriptions right now, or that's not what we're paying her for.
Better to understand the money needs.
Yeah. We need her to finish what she's doing, because honestly, I feel like it should have been last month, but hey, hopefully we're going to get it this month. So, but no, I hear you guys on the language of it. Some of it's archaic because these do come from standardized descriptions. We actually had on the town's job application, one of the items where you're supposed to evaluate your skill level is shorthand. And I've had applicants ask me, what is shorthand? And I apologize to them. I'm like, I get it. Like, it's not utilized anymore, especially because we type. Nobody types in shorthand. They're not trained in shorthand in school. But we still have it in our application. So there's little things that we still need to clean up. But yeah.
I guess you could say the same for cursive.
Yeah, true.
all right. Well, if there's no further discussion on it, does someone want to entertain a motion?
This is Jerry. I'm happy to make a motion to conclude the meeting.
No, we have to approve the job description.
I'm still.
Jerry's ready to leave the door.
I'll stick for a while.
Okay, I can second that. So we have a motion made to approve the job descriptions as written.
Mhm.
I'll do a roll call vote. Brenda,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Therefore, it passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is anything unanticipated. Did you have anything else, Pete?
I'm trying to think. Just so the committee is aware, I referenced that animal inspector job description. We had hired an animal inspector back in September. Unfortunately, she gave her notice this past weekend. And so I'll be going to the board this Thursday night asking just to repost that position. The problem with that position is it is a stipend role. That position has the requirement of handling our barn inspections as well as essentially any potential rabies concerns or quarantine measures that need to happen. So it's a stipend position where that individual mostly is doing work in October, November to do the inspections, and then is called upon when there is a rabies concern issue. But it's few and far between during the year outside of that. And the individual that we hired works for a veterinarian, but was finding it very difficult to balance the requirements currently because of the inspection requirements and the need to do the barn inspections. So we'll be reposting it. I think I may try to market it to internal staff to see if there's a current staff member in the Whately town staff that would be willing to take on the position. That way it's somebody that's even closer. They know the responsibilities, they can balance it a little bit more, but I just wanted you to know that right now, Megan is going to hold the position through the end of the month though.
Okay. I want to say when we discussed this like a year or so ago, we also made the comment about trying to reach out to neighboring communities to their animal inspector. And if they're in a scenario where they're doing it and they're only a few hours here and there, maybe it would be something that they'd be willing to take on as well.
No, that's a great idea. I can send the job posting to the surrounding animal inspectors and see if they're interested. I also asked, we're part of the regional animal control program through the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. They've discussed adding in animal inspection services, but they do not have the staff for it right now. So unfortunately, that program, we only have animal control through. We do not have animal inspection. But hopefully at some point we can get it on a regionalized support where it's really hard for a small town to hold on to a staff member for something that is so minimal, or it's minimal during most of the year. So it would be great if Franklin County would add in animal inspection into their services. I just don't see that for the foreseeable future. But I can certainly send this posting out to the neighboring animal inspectors.
Okay. The only other thing I had, and you've already done, Pete, and that was I was just curious where we stood with the wage and classification study. And you told me that, Sandy is just nearing completion on it, which is good to hear. So maybe that'll be our next meeting's discussion.
Yeah. Was that the plan? Like when we had the draft, we then engaged the personnel committee to provide comment. Do you know if there was an expectation of the personnel committee?
It seems like I'd have to go back, maybe look in the minutes, but that's my recollection anyways, that it would come to us and we'd review it.
Yeah, I don't see any harm in doing that. So yeah, we'll plan on that.
Now, how will the vacancies for Susan and Betty be addressed? What's the process to add more members onto the committee?
So both of those are town moderator appointees or appointments. So I'm glad you just mentioned that it's not two positions.
Just one.
We only have one position open. It's just Betty's. Because Susan was replaced by
Brenda.
I was told by me, but I don't know.
Yes.
She told me that I replaced her, but no one else.
I think that's right.
Got it.
So yeah, we have the one. So we put a posting on the website today to do it, but it's also Nat as the town moderator. the town moderator, whenever they have the responsibility of filling vacancies. It's their role to engage with community members, or based on their previous engagement with community members, seek them out and say, I feel that you'd be great on our personnel committee. Are you willing to do this? Here's what the responsibilities are. And then he then appoints them.
Will you have enough people just from a count to get to the quorum when we start getting into actually approving payrolls and we get to the budget side of things?
As long as we have 3 committee members, we have a quorum like we do today.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, today, and Joyce generally is free. It's just she was teaching right now, so she wasn't able to make this one. But normally we're pretty good with our attendance. Normally.
That placement isn't critical for that part of the process. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? Hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion made. I'll second it to go ahead and adjourn. And since we're at Zoom, we'll do a roll call vote. Brenda,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Okay. Very good, everybody.